Hello and welcome. So today what we're going to talk about is just overall setup of the bench press. So let's be honest. When it comes to the bench press can definitely be intimidating. Let's be real. This is a 7-foot bar. Typically can be anywhere from 35 to 45 pounds. Could be more, could be less, just depending on the bar itself. On top of that, the actual setup can be intimidating, right? Because it's free weights. You can set it. You've seen it. May have been seeing it set up many different ways. So really, just it's up to what you're using it for. But for all intents and purposes, we're going to look at it through the lens of we're setting this up for a traditional bench press or a push, right? So first thing we're going to do is you want to make sure you have plenty of space on the sides. So yes, like I mentioned before, typically an Olympic size bar is 7 feet. So that being said, give yourself at least another foot on each side. So you need at least 9 feet. So make sure there's not equipment or a person or anything like that on either side. Start off with that. On top of that, you also want to make sure you use a bench that is stable. So make sure all your equipment is in working order. So when it comes to the bench, make sure it's nice and solid, nice and secure. It's not rocking back and forth or seems unsecure. Remember, when you're doing a bench press, you're on the bench and you're only as solid or only as grounded as much as that bench is grounded to the ground. So if it's unstable, you're lifting on an unstable surface, and we don't want to do that. So make sure that bench is nice and stable. In terms of setting this up, what you want to make sure of is if the bar has a center knurling, you want to make sure your bench lines up in the middle of that center knurling. Not all bars have a center knurling. So if it doesn't have a center knurling, that is okay. Just make sure that your bench is somewhere in the middle of that center knurling. Now you have your bench set up, you make sure your bench is nice and solid. From there, when it comes to picking the height of setting up the bar for the bench press, it really depends. So what you want to make sure of is when setting it up, you want to make sure that your arms are somewhere somewhere comfortable. You want to make sure it's not too high to where you're having to kind of lift up in order to get it off of what these are called J hooks, getting off the J hooks. You want to make sure it's not too low to where you're almost doing a full rep just to get it off of the J hooks. So from here, you want to make sure it's somewhere in the middle. You want to make sure that your arms are maybe around 90 degrees, give or take a little bit, right? It just depends on the height of the bench and the whole spacing on your squat rack or on your rack overall. So once you have that set up, from there, you want to get underneath that bar and you want to, in terms of hand placement, it really just depends on what's comfortable for you. So you can have it to where it's pretty narrow and you're holding on like so, or it's pretty wide. But big thing here, when it comes to hand placement, let's break it down into 3 easy segments. First thing we want to do is whether we go wide grip, middle grip, or narrow, we want to make sure that we grip the bar. And what I mean by grip the bar is grip it as if it's going to pull away from you. Obviously it's not, but we want to grip it. From there, we want to break the bar. What I mean by breaking the bar is we want to set our shoulders in place. So we want to go and set them down and back. So that means holding onto the bar, gripping it, breaking it, setting those shoulders down and back. And then from there, we also want to make sure our feet are nice and tucked underneath. Yes, this is an upper body movement, but we want to also make sure we have the leg drop. So we want to have our feet digging into the ground nice and stable in the ground, whether they're tucked underneath the bench or whatever is more comfortable from you. And we want to, from there, push. So think about those 3 steps. First step, grip the bar. Second step, break the bar. Third step, feet are set into that into the ground, pushing into the ground. And from there, we lift off, we bring it down, push, and bring it back. So to put this in motion, from here, I'm going to find my spot. I'm going to grip the bar, grip it for dear life. Then I'm going to break the bar. And if you notice, as I break the bar, shoulders are set in place. Bracing that core, my shoulders are locked in and digging into the shoulder pad or in the bench pad. So from here, my feet are digging into the ground. And from here, I just push up. I come down. You come down to whatever's comfortable for you. It could be here, 90 degrees. If it feels comfortable enough, you can bring it down to your chest. And then from here, we push up. And again, you can go and do as many reps as you want, but we rack it and go from there. So that is the overall setup and just the fundamental start of how to do a bench press. Also, last but definitely not least, once we actually have weight on the bar, or if we're using the bar, that's perfectly fine. Do what you can, because what you can do is plenty. But once we actually start adding weight to the bar, make sure we're also using collars as well, so that weight doesn't shift as we're going through the motion or through the movement. So again, last but not least, just recapping, make sure we have a fundamental bench, a nice solid bench. Make sure our rack J-hooks are placed where it's comfortable for us, somewhere around 90 degrees, so we're lifting off at a pretty neutral starting point. Plenty of space on both sides. When it comes to the bar, 3 steps. Grip it, break it, feet digging into the ground, pushing into the ground nice and solid, and then we go right into the motion. And like I said, last but not least, we look at those collars. Make sure we have collars on both sides. Other than that, you should be good to go ahead and fundamentally start bench pressing. That said, be safe, be well. Happy lifting.